Welcome to Flutter Teacher. In the last video, we have seen the concept called inheritance. While explaining various concepts, I had talked to you that I will talk about this one or I will explain this question in the next video. So basically, this is the next video that I was talking about in the inheritance topic. So in this video, I will talk about 10 different questions related to inheritance that every Dart and Flutter developer must know. So without wasting time, let's get started. Let's start from the first question. Why Dart does not support multiple inheritance? Basically, multiple inheritance is the inheritance where we have a single subclass which can have multiple subclasses. Practically in Dart, it's not possible to write multiple superclasses for the single class or for a single subclass. So why it's not possible, we'll talk about this one technically. Consider we have two classes, let's say class A and class B. You can observe here class A has got a method called void demo, and there is some definition of demo method here. Class B has got the same demo method. It has the same return type, same method name, and the same parameter list. And it has a little different definition for the class for the method demo here. Now, I'm trying to define class C here that's trying to extend both class A and class B. But make sure that, guys, this is not possible. Otherwise, you might say that, why I'm writing this one. I'm saying that it's wrong. It's not possible for us to write extends A and B. Just for understanding, for getting the reason for this one, I'm trying to explain this one with an example. Then we have the main. Inside main, I'm trying to create object of C, and over this object of C, you can observe here, I'm trying to call a method demo here. Now you can observe here, as this C is extending A and B, so it's not practically possible, but let's try to understand. So as due to extend, that is due to inheritance, the members of A and the members of B as well will come inside the class C. It means the class C will have two different versions of the method demo, one that is coming from A and another that is coming from the class B. Now inside the main, when I'm trying to call the demo over this object of C class, then there's a big question, which demo method to call, that is coming from the class A or coming from the class B, because it has two different versions of demo inside the class C. So which one to call, the call of that method demo cannot be resolved, and this particular problem is called as the ambiguity in the method called. And there is no solution for this one in most of the languages. Means if you know the Java or if you know other programming languages, so it's not possible to solve this problem very easily. That's why to solve that one they have removed the concept. Means they have removed the concept of multiple inheritance itself, so that this kind of problem should not appear in your code. And that is the reason Dart also does not support this kind of multiple inheritance. Hope it's clear for you guys. The second question is, why inheritance arrows are shown in upward direction? Consider we have two classes, class A as a superclass and B as a subclass. Then inheritance arrow is shown in upward direction, not in the downward direction. Let's understand the technical reason for this one. Consider we have two classes, class person and the class employee. You can observe here person is acting as the superclass and employee is acting as a subclass here. Now the observable thing here is, if you look at the class person here, so the class person is not saying that I want to send properties of mine to anybody. So it looks like the individual class. So it is not giving anything to anybody. But if you observe the class employee, it's saying I want to extend person. Means I want to get something from the class person. So from this code, it's clear that employee class wants something from another class. Means we can say person is not giving anything to anybody, okay, but employee wants something from person. That's why the arrow has to be shown in upward direction. So even if you have knowledge about the UML diagram, in UML diagrams also the arrows in shown, means the arrows is shown the upward direction for the inheritance. Third question is, what's the problem of using copy paste instead of using the inheritance? This question is mostly asked by the beginners, especially those who don't have any idea about the programming languages. Means that is the first language they are learning, and they ask that question to me. So, what is the problem if I use copy paste instead of using inheritance? The first problem is, consider we have some classes. Let's say we have class A that has got 10 methods, and I want these 10 methods of class inside B and inside C. So I can copy these methods inside B and inside B, and I'm good to go here. But the first problem is we have the code redundancy. Second is the size of your code or size of your program goes on increasing if you are going to write multiple codes again and again in the program. And the third and the biggest, or you can say the most critical problem is, consider if some method that is out of this 10 method or might be particular method needs to be modified. So we can modify the method in class A, but you have to remember that these methods are used at several different classes in your projects. So you have to go inside each and every class manually, and you have to update that particular code or that particular thing that you want to update in class A. So that's why this is how it's going to work. But consider you forget to modify something at a particular file or in particular class. Then in this situation, you're going to face lots of problems. So that's why it's recommended to use inheritance. It means if we have 10 methods in class A, so using inheritance, all the 10 methods are available in class B and inside the class C as well. So if you want to modify something in some method, you simply have to modify in class A and forget about modifying this one in your entire project wherever you are extending class A. It is automatically modified because it's an inheritance. You are not doing copy paste activity here. The fourth question is why constructors are not inherited. Okay, let's understand this one practically. Consider we have class A, and we know that when we have class A, the constructor of this class A will have the name called A. And when we have class B that extends A here, then in order to define the constructor of B, the name of this constructor has to be B here. Now consider just for a few minutes that it's possible that the constructors are getting inherited. So what will happen here? If you observe here, as you are extending A, it means the constructor of A will inherit in B. Okay, it's not possible, but just for understanding, just say it's possible. So what will happen here? The constructor of A will be inherited in class B. But just imagine the constructor having name A does not have any sense in the class B, because the constructor of B must have the name B. It should not have any other name. So the name A of the constructor has no meaning in class B. That's why constructors are not inherited, means no constructor of superclass is inherited in a subclass. Rather, you have to call the appropriate constructor of superclass through the subclass constructor. We'll talk about that one when we'll explain the concept of constructors in inheritance. Fourth question is what about private members in inheritance? Lots of students or lots of people have a doubt that is it possible that the private members of class are inherited in a subclass? Yes, they are inherited. Look at this example here. Consider we have class A and that has got two fields. Let's say one is a private and another one is a public. And to understand this one, I'm trying to place the class A inside the library called a dot dot, and we have a class B which is a subclass that is extending class A, and consider this class B is there in a different library, that is it is there inside the different file called b dot dot. As we know that the private members will have only the visibility for library, means this underscore private field is used only inside a library a dot dot. Out of this library it's not accessible. So as B is extending class A, so private members of class A, means public and private, both these members of class A are going to inherit here. It means I must say that both these private and public fields of A are there inside B. Yeah, it's there. But the problem here is as A and B are there in different library, means they are there in different file. So that's why we can use this public field. You can make it 10. It works. It's fine. But if you try to use the private field, you will get error here because it's not allowed to use the private field out of the library. But however, if we have the class A and class B, if they are in the same file, that is, if they are in the same library, then it's going to work perfectly. But actually, while writing the application, we don't recommend to use this class A and class B inside the same library. We try to place them inside the different library to make it much more simplified, and that is what the standard of writing the code. So if you do it of splitting that one in a different file, so you can't access the private member. But it doesn't mean that if you can't access means it's not going to inherit. It's not the case. It will inherit 100%. It will inherit, but you can't access that one because of this particular accessibility rule. The sixth question is, does every Dart class involve in inheritance? It means consider we have a class, and for that particular class, I don't want to write extend any other class. So still that individual class is a part of inheritance, means whether this class is enjoying inheritance, I will say yes. Each and every class in Dart, whether you make it inherited using some class or if you keep it without inheriting, so still each and every class in Dart will inherit the class, means it will enjoy the inheritance. So if you inherit a class, it's going to inherit your class. But consider you have a class and that is not going to inherit any other class, then such a class is inheriting the object class. Means each and every class in Dart extends object class except the class called null. So make sure that null class is the only one class in Dart which does not inherit the class called object. And the null, that is null in small letter, is an instance that represents the null object. Consider a practical example for this one. You can see we have class A and there is nothing inside class A, and here I'm not writing extend anything in the class A. So as I explained, if you don't write anything extending for your class, so such a class will extend by default object class. So as a proof of this, you can observe here inside the main for line number 4, I have used the object of A here, and if I use, let's say, obj dot something, you can observe here I can use the hash code, I can use the runtime type. So hash code and the runtime type, these are the fields that I'm getting from the object class, and the method called toString, and no such a method, I'm also getting these two methods from the object class inside the class A. The seventh question is inheritance is needful for Flutter? This is the question mostly asked by the beginners who has a Flutter and a Dart as their first programming experience, means they don't have any programming experience. So that is being asked. So they feel that why someone should use learn or why someone should learn the Dart, and they directly want to jump on Flutter. So they ask me a question that is it needful to use inheritance, or should Flutter uses inheritance? So I will say yes. If you look at your first Flutter application, you can observe here for writing your first Flutter application, whenever we write some class or we use some widget here, we write that particular class and we go on writing extends a stateless widget. Guys, you might not believe that over my Facebook, lots of people has asked me this question: what is the use of this extend stateless or extend stateful widget when I'm using a Flutter? So I really request those kind of guys who don't know about this one. So definitely, inheritance is useful. It is required in Flutter. Each and everything in Flutter is made using inheritance. If you have a good programming experience or if you have the sense of programming, so make sure that it's definitely required. It's definitely important to have the inheritance knowledge to implement or to use Flutter. Eighth question is, does inheritance finish if I learn extending class? This is again a most commonly asked question, that if I understood extending class, so is it enough about the inheritance? I will say no, it's not enough about inheritance. To understand the inheritance in deeply or very well, you must understand the concepts like the abstract class, you must understand the abstract methods, you must know what is in interface and why to use that one, what do you mean by the mixing and what to use mixing even if we have the classes or we have the interfaces, and you must understand the constructors in inheritance, means how to define constructor, how to invoke the superclass constructor when we are in the world of inheritance. So I must say that if you understand extending classes and if you know all these concepts, then I can say you have now good knowledge about the inheritance in the Dart. The ninth question is, can I make classes final so that no one can inherit from it? This question is mostly asked by the guys those come from the Java background. So they try to write say final class A, and believe me guys, this is going to give you error because in Dart we cannot define a class as final. Means we cannot create a class that is final. Means you cannot prevent it from the inheritance. But however, if you want your class to prevent it from inheritance, it's possible. We can make the constructor private and we can use so many combinations and all these things. So it's possible you can keep it protected from inheritance, means nobody can inherit that one, but you cannot make it final, means you cannot use final keyword for the class. Final is only reserved, or you can only use it for defining the final variables in the class. The last question is, what is composition and aggregation? Is it different from inheritance? So if you have watched my video related to inheritance, I have talked about that one in detail. So in this video, I'm just going to revise that one. I'm not going to explain that one in this much detail, but as a question of this, I will explain. So if you want to have the relationship between the classes can have two different types of relationship. The one is called inheritance and another is called the association. Inheritance in the sense, for example, observe here, we have class employee, and to access the members of person inside the employee, I have written here extends. Means to access the person member, I will inherit the person class inside employee, and I will access the properties or members of person inside the class employee. So that's going to create the blur relationship between the class employee and the person, so that I can access the members of person inside the employee, and it creates is a relationship between these two different classes. There is one more kind of relationship you can observe here. We have class called car. Inside this class, we have the object of music player and we have the object of engine. So music player and engine, these are the two individual classes. Basically, music player, car, and engine, these are three individual classes. But still, the properties of music player can be accessed by creating object of music player in car class, and we can also access the properties of engine inside the car class simply by creating the object of engine inside the car. Means it's possible to access the properties of music player, engine inside the car. So this is again a kind of relationship in the classes, but it's not inheritance. Means I'm not inheriting music player or the engine inside the car class, but still it's possible to access the properties via the object. So such a type of relationship is called as association, and it creates a relationship called as has a relationship. Means we can say car has a music player, car has engine. Then whenever we have the weak bounding in the classes, then that type of relationship is called aggregation, and when we have the strong bounding in the classes, it is called as the composition. Let's understand this one here. The music player means music player can be there without a car, or we can have a car without music player. So it's possible, means there is no strong bounding in music player object and the car object. So such a type of bounding is called as a weak bounding. Whereas when we think or when we talk about the engine and car, so to run the engine, to use the engine, we should have some car or vehicle, and the car is useless without engine. So it makes a strong bounding between the object of car and the object of engine. So this type of bounding is called as strong bounding, and it is called as composition. That's it for this video. I try to cover as much as possible by me related to questions for inheritance. But still, if you have any doubt, any different questions related to inheritance, feel free to ask me. We'll have a discussion on that one. And if you really found this video helpful, if you like it, and if you feel it's knowledgeable, then don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button to get my latest videos.